different crashes, how we can prevent them in the future or prevent the severity of future crashes. So just popping that out there. And we are recording the session, but as you'll find out shortly, you at the moment can't talk or you're on mute and you can't unmute yourself. And there is the ability for us to give you the ability to unmute yourself. We don't have that activated at this stage. We may later in some conversation points, but we do that just to stop the dogs barking in the background or the people forgetting to mute and those sorts of things. And in the webinar version of Zoom, which we're in, there is no ability to have cameras on apart from Max and I. So you can happily do this in your pajamas and nobody will ever know. Over to you, Max. Tell us who you are and give us a bit more info on this webinar.
Thank you.
Training.
Thank you, Ken. I'm the Senior Project Engineer at Safe System Solutions, but today's duties, I'll be the program moderator. So I'll be basically behind the scenes helping out Ken just run the logistics of the webinar series. So you'll see me in the background answering a lot of questions. And on that point, I'll just mention that we do have a chat function within Zoom. So hopefully you can see at the bottom of your screen, there should be a little panel, a little toolbar, and there is a chat where you can type in any questions that you may have for Ken or myself. And what we'll do is I'll give my best shot at trying to answer those and respond to those quickly. But if there's any that maybe a little bit prickly or perhaps require some more advanced thinking, I'll shift them up the line to Ken and he can answer them live. But I do encourage you, if you are asking any questions, there is a function to either send it to everyone or to send it just to the hosts, which would mean just only Ken and I would see it. And if possible, it'd be great if you could send it to everyone because other people may have that same question, assuming that it's not sensitive or anything like that. And yeah, just make sure everyone's on the same page. Another way to get in touch with us is through the Q&A function. We don't tend to use that one quite as frequently, so we prefer the chat function. The Q&A is there just in case your chat isn't working. Sometimes computers have issues with their firewall settings with the chat, but the Q&As, for some reason, it works. But yeah, our preference is to the chat function where you'll see me typing away. And if at any stage you do want to get in touch with us and perhaps you, as Ken mentioned, you may actually want to speak to us to perhaps share some learnings or just clarify anything. If you raise your hand, we're able to unmute you, and that will actually give you the opportunity to vocalize any of those discussion points. So yes, that's me there, Max Picardle. And if your tech does fail, please don't hesitate to give me, send me an email, or would recommend just going to your USB that's hopefully arrived in time, and that will have all the PowerPoints saved on there. Or we also have everything saved on our learning management system, and hopefully everyone has access to that, which is called Moodle. Ken, I might get you onto the next slide if that's all right.
Right, we had a couple of bonus slides popped into there with other people who aren't going to be joining this course. But thanks for that, Max. And I'll come back to you in a second to introduce Moodle, but I'll just explain who I am. So Ken Beer, Principal Engineer at Safe System Solutions. So I'll lead the content of the course, and as Max mentioned there, he'll be behind the scenes answering questions and the like, and it's also your go-to if you need with any tech issues or assignment issues in terms of getting them in on time or making sessions or the like. And you can talk to either Max or I about the technical content if you have trouble with any assignments or anything like that. Max is a very experienced safe system assessor, and I've done many safe system assessments in my time. I've popped a QR code there to my LinkedIn. I do like to share lots of different road safety things that are popping up around the place, and I use that platform quite a bit. So love to connect with you. I'll keep that sort of in the bottom corner down here for the first few slides anyway if you want to do that, or you can search for me, and my contact details are there. Over to you, Max. Tell us a little bit about this Moodle thing you speak of.
Yes, so this is our online platform where we basically house all the content that is relevant to this webinar series. So everything that you need in terms of all the webinar recordings will be uploaded here. So if you do happen to miss a session, you're able to access those recordings at a later date. Or if you want to reference something at a later time, you will have access to all of those, as well as all the PowerPoint slides that Ken will be presenting today, and some additional resources as well. We save it all up on this learning management system platform, which is called Moodle. Hopefully everyone has already had access to that. We've already seen a few people introduce themselves on the platform as well, which is fantastic. Unfortunately, we're unable to have those conversations face to face, so it's awesome just to be able to introduce yourself and have a little bit of insight as to your experience within the road safety field, and I suppose your current interest within the safe system assessment world. So if you haven't got access to Moodle, please do get in touch with me ASAP, because this is where the quizzes and the coursework will also be hosted. So in order at the end of this course to be able to get your certificate and pass, you do need access to this platform just to make sure that all of that is carried away. Ken.
Thanks, Max. And we'll keep ticking along here. So because we're not in person and using the online format, we've got a few little tricks to try and ensure that you're engaged. We'll certainly be asking you lots of questions. We'll have polls popping up at different points. And we've also got our little friend here, Wally the Wombat. Wally the Wombat warning sign appears throughout the sessions and random sort of points on slides. And you have to just keep a track of how many times Wally appears in a module, so in the session. And then one of your quiz questions will just be, how many times did Wally appear? So keep a track of that. Keep a little bit of paper, scrap of paper or something. Keep jotting a little line down every time you see Wally, and you'll have a count at the end. Now, we have a little bit of tolerance either side on the number, just in case you were dealing with something else. But we're trying to stop you doing all your emails and designing a roundabout or something with the course going on the side. You've got to interact with us a bit. We also have some other incentives, and we've got prizes. Now, I know a few of you have done a live course with Safe System Solutions in the past, and we'd love to give out a prize or two. And we're certainly continuing that into the digital format. And you get a chance, excuse me, you get a chance to win a prize if you answer questions. And Max is in the prize bit. Are all the prizes little fluffy, whatever those are?
No, this is just an indicative to show that there are prizes to be delivered. So this is the carnival spirit, and we love giving out prizes. But no, we've got some even more impressive prizes coming your way if we do get some awesome questions and some good answers as well.
Yeah, great. So ask your questions through the chat. If when we get to case studies and things, if you're volunteering to talk us through some stuff, chance to win a prize. And if you turn up early, log in a little bit early, a couple of minutes before the actual session starts. Max is always a good one for asking pub trivia style questions and giving out a few prizes. So a little incentive to log in early. Now, this course, so Safe System Assessments, we actually have a competency benchmark that we need to meet. So ensuring that you have a level of competency in Safe System Assessments. And so we have some requirements for you to get your certificate out of this course. And you have to attend 4 out of the 5 live webinars. And we do record any that are, we will record them all, so you'll be able to watch one if you miss it and catch up that way. Now, if life takes goes crazy on you and you just absolutely can't attend another one, just get in contact with Max, have a chat about that, and I'm sure he'll be able to sort something out for you. We need you to complete all the set tasks, so quizzes and assignments and everything, and you need to get an 80% pass mark. So you need to get above 80% on all the quizzes and assignments. Now that sounds quite high, but we intentionally set the benchmark quite high there. But don't worry too much, because everything you'll be quizzed on and everything in the assignment is covered in the modules. So if you're listening and concentrating, you'll certainly be able to do that. And you have up to 3 attempts at each of these. And we offer one-on-one coaching. So we'll set up a one-on-one Zoom with you or a phone call if you're struggling, if you don't understand aspects of it. So certainly having a first go at these things, and then if you discover you really didn't do so well and you're quite confused, we want you to get in contact with us, and we'll organise that and we'll work it through. Because the thing is that we say if anybody doesn't achieve that 80% mark, it's a fail on us for not getting the information across to you in a way that you can understand it. So we're not going to let that happen. And we will have as much one-on-one coaching as required to ensure that your competency level is up there. So don't get too concerned, and I'm sure you'll all get through. We've had some absolutely wonderful participants from across New Zealand, and people are really enjoying it and not having trouble getting over that hurdle. All right, Max, any questions from anybody on the logistics, the running of the course, how things are going to work? Pop it into the chat now. We can answer those. Otherwise, we'll probably get started with some content, but I think we'll find out who we've got here, what sort of level of experience in road safety they've got. So any questions, Max?
Nothing so far, no, Ken. So happy to launch a poll to get things started if you want.
Yeah, let's chuck up a poll. It should appear on your screen, and then you just simply click on it. And now, all the polls that come up, you're not being marked on those. You know, I said that 80%. Throughout the actual live session, you're not marked, okay? It's only until after the session you do a sort of assignment, some quizzes that you're marked. Well, what do we got here, Max?
It's not letting me share it. Hang on, I'll relaunch poll. That's why.
I can see it.
Oh, you can?
Yeah.
It's just saying share results, though.
Oh, maybe because you already launched it once. All right, we'll come back to that. I'll let you work on that in the background, Max. And
so can you let me know, Ken, is that popping up for you that you can actually select the answers?
No, I think it's just playing the empty because I think it was run once. And it's
yes.
So we'll just copy that one and get it back going again. We'll come back to it in a second. I was just interested to see what the level of road safety experience was in the group. Certainly a few names pop out of legends of the road safety space. Oh, here we go.
There we go.
Something's happening. Oh my gosh, it's on.
It's all gone. Everyone was very ready to get that done. So apologies for that technical interference.
No, that's all right. That's all right. And earlier on there, Max, your internet was playing up, but it seems to have rectified itself now.
Okay, you're coming through crystal clear at my end, so just let me know if I need to hop onto the hotspot.
Okay, no, all good. We got most people have popped in their answers. Maybe one more. Oh,
everyone.
Oh,
okay.
Let's have a look at what do we got here. So, okay, how many years have you been working in road safety or related field? So we've got a few very new to it, a few with a few years experience, and then quite a number who have been around for a while. Wow. Okay, good spread. That's excellent, isn't it? I'm certainly be starting with some of the very sort of basics. So that's that works for those new into it, and it's I suppose might be a slightly different lens on some of the things for the people who've been around for a while. So that's good. But I will be asking lots of questions and for insights from those with lots of experience to share those. So that's good. Thank you very much. Let's stop that. And I'm going to jump into some content and we'll give out some prizes as we go, Max. But please don't wait for me to ask you if there are any questions. Just pop your questions in as you go, or your insights so others can see it. We like lots of interaction going on behind the scenes, and Max is constantly answering, monitoring, and moving things along. All right, so the end of this module, so the end of today's session, we want you to be able to list the sort of principles and elements of the SAFE system and look at kinetic energy thresholds for different crash types, difference between the traditional approach to road safety and the SAFE system approach, cite some best practice on behavioural change and vehicle safety interventions, and give some reasons why speed is so critical to the SAFE system. So here we go. I'm going to help you out here. You're on one Wally. So that one back before was just an example Wally. Wally count is 1, right? No more help from here on forward. All right, Road to Zero is your road safety strategy. And it's actually, I suggest you have a flick through it if you haven't already, because it's actually really well thought through and put together document. And I say that from a position of reading a lot of these documents from around the world. And I do often refer to New Zealand's as some world's best practice in a lot of areas. And I won't obviously go through it all, but I picked out a specific bit in the KPIs and actions that's very relevant to this course. And you see here, well, I love the fact that you've got percentage of people who have completed an approved SAFE system training course and show improved understanding of the SAFE system. That's just wonderful. I mean, capability capacity building across our industry is so important, ensuring we're all understanding the best latest practices. Next one down though, percentage of road infrastructure projects that have been subject to a road safety audit and or SAFE system assessment. And to me, it's a wonderful thing to actually have in there as a key performance indicator, because it's something that we should be doing, and we'll track it. And when you track things, they happen. And I just love the fact that it's there and that SAFE system assessments are identified as part of the suite of things we can do to see SAFE system on the ground in infrastructure projects. And we will concentrate a lot on that. But the first thing I want to do is actually just reestablish and make sure we're all on the same page. What is this SAFE system thing, right? What's this philosophy that we're talking about? And wow, there are lots of different diagrams out there for the SAFE system, all these different things popping up and around the place. This one is a very early diagram of the SAFE system, right? And this was floating around at a point in time, and we were sort of all debating different, how does this SAFE system, how should we represent this? How do we take these principles into account? And I was working in Vic Roads, the Victorian Road Authority at the time, and having these debates at a national level, at an Austroads level, with New Zealand as well. In the what year did we, Australia and New Zealand, adopt the SAFE system? And it was basically this diagram at the time. Have a guess at that into the chat. You don't lose any marks or anything if you get it wrong. So just have a guess. What year are we talking about? And I'm going to give a prize to the person who gets the closest to it. Yeah,
Sean's suggesting 2007.
Oh, good. We're getting some guesses, are we? Good.
2012, 2008, 2010. Getting similar answers. Oh, we've got 2002, Nihad. 2009, 2015.
That's what Edwin's in there was pretty close. Edwin had a guess at 2005. I'm going to give a prize there. So it was 2004 pretty much when this was all happening. So quite a while back, eh? 2004. So there's our first prize winner. That's a while back. So why has it taken so long for us to really get this up and running as this philosophy of the safe system? Well, it's been embedded in road safety strategies and action plans, and it's been proliferated out there as a high-level philosophy. Yeah, the safe system at a philosophical level. How do we actually make decisions on the ground based on the safe system became a very sort of murky opinion-based way of going about things. And with the invention of the safe system assessment framework, which is what we're going to be delving into here, it's actually made it a lot easier for us to understand on-ground decisions in safe system, relation to the safe system. But some interesting stuff about this early diagram, right? It's an early diagram, and don't worry if you can't read the details of it. I'll talk you through it briefly. Right in the middle of our early safe system diagrams, human tolerance to physical force. How much force can humans take before they break? Interesting start to a philosophy for managing a road system, but it's right there at the center. And then you see we've got the speed, we've got the vehicles, we've got the roads and roadsides. Sort of looks familiar. People sometimes call them pillars. I call them elements because I see them interacting, all mashed together. But whatever floats your boat, really. And that was it. And so then there was a circle around that and said that's the system. We're all happily going about that. And somebody goes, well, hang on. What about the road users? And then we got this sort of split between these two camps of road safety professionals. And it was the camp that was sort of saying, no, we want a system that is set up, that is, does not need the human to be acting appropriately, to be alert, to be compliant in order for them to be safe. We want our system to be impenetrable to human error, right? And we're going to work on the speeds and the vehicles and the roads and roadsides to ensure that, because humans make mistakes. Humans make mistakes all the time. I've made many mistakes already today, that's for sure. Hopefully none of them have resulted in death or serious injury for anybody, but it's part of being human. You make mistakes, lots of mistakes all the time, usually little bits and pieces. We often learn from our mistakes. It's just what we do. Then you had the other camp saying, no, human have to take some responsibility. We have to have a transport system where people are alert and compliant, and that's how we'll get safe outcomes. Anyway, so debate went on, and eventually what happened was this square went around it with this alert and compliant road users. Now, I was in the camp that said, we've just failed. I mean, one of the fundamentals of the safe system just went out the window there, because it gives a complete get out of jail free card for anybody in the design, the management, the operation of the road network, or the licensing system or the regulations or the like, to just go, well, they were not alert or compliant, and they have to be that in order to safely use the road system. The safe system is really about challenging that sort of thinking, right? We're not voiding any responsibility on road users, but what we're saying is that we need to be realistic about the failures of humans, and there are many. But we can create systems that cater for that and mean that things happen, but that don't result in death or serious injury. Anyway, so then things evolved. Things evolved from 2004, and everybody started producing circles and the different safe system diagrams, and they're all relatively the same in terms of the principles that they're putting forward and the ways that we're able to, the levers we have to pull in terms of improving road safety. And The New Zealand most recent one that is there looks like this, and there's some aspects of this I absolutely love. I really love this this one. And I was talking to Michael Newesteg the other day, who's the sort of lead of the Australian Safety and Design Task Force, and we were talking about different lenses on the SAFE system emerging across Australia and New Zealand, and I said just use the New Zealand one. It's far and away the best, and he had a lot of agreement with me on that for a few reasons, but we can get to that. The thing with the SAFE system and the New Zealand sort of take on it, we see there that there are the sort of core principles that are so important. Now, they link very much with other jurisdictions' principles, but I just like some of the wording and the way they're put. We strengthen all parts of the road transport system. So identifying that we're not going to achieve our objectives by simply concentrating on one aspect, be that the roads or the vehicles or the people. It's got to do work on all of these parts. We design for human vulnerability, and what a beautiful way to put it, right? So you're identifying there immediately human tolerance to physical force, and that's our design parameter. How brilliant is that? And that's just succinctly put for something that is so critical to the SAFE system approach. And we're going to delve a whole lot into that, because a SAFE system assessment is really a big part of it is assessing how well that has been done. We have a shared responsibility for improving road safety. So not saying we are ignoring any road user in terms of road user, system designer has responsibility. In the end, I think we always need to say that we as system designers have the ultimate responsibility for safety, and any incident that occurs out there, we should be looking at what went wrong with our system to let that happen. But we'll debate that a little bit more later. Our actions are grounded in evidence and evaluated. And this is so important in road safety. I cannot stress this enough. Road safety especially. And the reason for that is that everybody out there is a road user of some description, whether they're a pedestrian, a cyclist, a driver, and they've been doing it for a very long time often. And this includes you and me. And if we are making decisions on our personal experience, we do not have a representative sample, we do not have evaluated evidence, we're going on opinion, right? Also, the public, the politicians, and everybody has this opinion on road safety and how to, reduce trauma, okay? But what is it grounded on evidence and evaluate? Or is it just opinion? And we see some staggering things in road safety where people's opinion, and it kind of looks like that will be a good thing to do, actually makes things worse. I'll give you some examples of that shortly. But one of the things that is very hard as a road safety practitioner is to draw your personal opinion out of it and say, what is the evidence telling you? And look at it through that lens. Our road safety actions support health, well-being, and livable places. Genius here. Leagues ahead of a lot of jurisdictions. We get so much road safety benefit off the coattails of health, well-being, livable places. People are so much more willing often to rearrange the way they do things to create healthy, livable places and support well-being. When you attack it from a road safety perspective, they immediately start to think that road safety is, a different beast, and that it's all about driver, behaviors and inappropriateness and those sorts of things. So it's quite smart to try to see, what's resonating with the people, how are we getting change, and how do we jump on board that bandwagon as well? We make safety a critical decision-making priority. Beautiful. Safety is critical in decisions, and we'll explore that more. And we promote good choices, but plan for mistakes. There it is. We're not avoiding the idea of trying to get our drivers, our riders, our walkers better in terms of road safety practices. Absolutely. We're going to promote that. We're going to continue to do that. Education, all sorts of good things. But we plan for mistakes. We plan for mistakes, and we design for human vulnerability. And the safe system diagram has these levers of how we were able to, do this through infrastructure improvements and speed management, vehicle safety interventions, work-related road safety, a good one, a new one in a lot of people's thinking, road user choices and improving that, and the whole system management. And there's a vision for a New Zealand where no one is killed or seriously injured in road crashes. And that's the ultimate aspiration there. And it's an aspiration, it's a point in time, but we should never lose sight of that vision. Not going to happen tomorrow, not going to happen in the next sort of 5 to 10 years. We'll be on our journey there, but that's the vision. Any questions come up there, Max, that I need to deal with, or you've got it all covered behind the scenes?
So far, so good, Ken.
Let me step out of roads and transport for a second and talk about safety culture from a different perspective. I'm going to talk to you about the production of widgets in factories, widget factories. What are widgets, actually? Anyway, widget production. There was a time where widget production and factories were a fairly open system. We had people working in there. We had kids cleaning machines. We had people go out and have a few beers at lunch and come back and jump back on the machines. And people were obviously being paid, but in some fairly ad hoc manner. What would usually happen, though, is that they'd be told, this is dangerous in here, so watch out for this. This is how you do this. Don't go near this bit. And, safety is your responsibility. Look after yourself, all right? We've told you it's dangerous. Look after yourself. That's what we would call a pathological safety culture. And where you've got this point where it's up to everybody to protect themselves the best they can, that is what we call pathological safety culture. After a while in the widget factories, it elevates up, and factories start to elevate up into what we see as a reactive safety culture, which is to solve safety problems as they come along. So a machine has killed a couple of people or ripped a few arms off, crushed some kids. Some people are looking at it and say, well, what can we do? Can we put a guard on that? Or maybe we only let people who have been working here for a few years use that machine because it seems to be dangerous. Or how about we give everybody a stick so they can push the stuff in with a stick instead of their hand, and that'll, we're trying to solve these. Then the economists jump on board. And the economists come in and have a look at the factory and they analyze things. They look at the data. They look at different costs that are being paid out to the family of people that are being killed, and the lost productivity time for machines being down and the like. And they say to the factory owner, listen, if you spend £20,000 here, and it's pounds back in the day, of course, if you just spend £20,000 here, you will actually get £60,000 of increased widget production and less payouts over the next 20 years. And we've come up with this new thing called a benefit cost ratio. And the benefit cost ratio of it is 3. So every pound you invest, you will get £3 in return. And that's where our economists start to come in. And then we elevate up from that and we start to get into what we call a proactive safety culture. The proactive safety culture is where safety sets the preconditions for widget production. So it says we need this incredibly high level of safety, and you can produce widgets up to that point. And once you're up there at a proactive safety culture, it needs continual investment in the maintenance of that. The maintenance of, yes, the machines and the equipment and all of that, but also maintenance of the culture and everything associated with it. So where do we sit with our road transport system in New Zealand? And it's an interesting sort of question to ponder, because I don't think it's a direct one of those. I certainly would say there are aspects of pathological safety culture, certainly patting people on the back and saying, congratulations, you've got your license. Now out you go, and safety is your responsibility. It's very dangerous out there, but safety is your responsibility. In fact, it's somewhat intertwined into the legislation as such, with being, you must be in control of the vehicle, and if not, then you'll be, found as people will be pointing the finger. You weren't in control of the vehicle, and it's your fault that you've been killed or seriously injured, or you've killed or seriously injured somebody else, right? Pathological stuff there. Reactive, absolutely. Black spot programs or different crash investigation programs, looking for those crash clusters, solving those problems as they come up. Calculating, love a BCR, don't we? Oh, it's very calculating. Got to put that economic case together for any investment, and it's very much, well, no, sure how many, I'm not sure there's enough people being killed for us to have that investment, balancing, weighing up. But there are proactive things happening out there. We're seeing some wonderfully proactive stuff in the infrastructure starting to happen, continuous barrier systems on new road projects, not waiting to see where people leave the road and are killed or seriously injured, but saying, no, we will proactively continue that barrier system because we know there is risk there, and we won't accept that. So there's a nice little example. I'd say one of our earliest proactive great examples in this space are school speed zones. If you do a benefit cost ratio on school speed zones for their introduction, which I actually happened to do at one point in my career, it's an absolutely horrible investment from an economist's point of view. If you put an economist's hat on, by doing that, sort of lose all other feelings and the like, and calculate out that just horrible investments. In fact, the BCR of ripping out all the school speed zones is wonderful, right? From an economist's perspective, because we get this slight increase in travel, slight decrease in travel times through these areas. It's very small per car, right? Per car and per truck. But if you add every car and every truck up that goes through there, you then get quite a big chunk of time, and you multiply that by the hourly average rate for a New Zealander in terms of productivity, which is like $88 an hour or something like that, and you calculate that over all the days of the year and continue to calculate it out, and you get this whopping sum of money, right? And you say, okay, that's the increased productivity we would have for the New Zealand economy if we ripped them all out. Now, how much is it going to cost us, right? Well, there's the cost to rip out the sign. Sure, that's next to nothing, right? But there's the cost of the death and serious injury that's occurring. And so what you do is you try and work out how many kids are killed and seriously injured and how many others are killed and seriously injured in these zones. And you calculate that out, and then you put a dollar value to human life. Huh? And you say, well, we're going to say that a New Zealand is worth $8 million or whatever it is, like something like that, I think, in a willingness to pay scenario, $8 million. And then we say, right, we think, every year we're going to have 1.1 kids killed in school speed zones if we rip them out, calculate. Go, yeah, well, there's nowhere near enough kids killed or seriously injured to make it not a good investment. So, and you can see there just that we have the ability to see things from this perspective of putting safety above these minuscule little bits and pieces. Now, I use that one because it's just in your face, grotesque, the idea to go about making a choice to kill and seriously injure kids, right? But we've seen very okay to do this in other areas of the road network. And we're going to explore that more. But I think that's a really good example of practice. Anyway, let's jump onto something else here. Max, quiz question. Now, it's going to be slightly different. Well, let's just put it up and see what comes back. There's one of the questions here, right, that you have not got the answer to, as in I haven't asked it yet. But most others, I think there's only maybe one or two other questions.
Just the two questions.
Just the two questions, good. So a key principle of the safe system, wording is slightly different to what we had exactly in the New Zealand diagram, but these are principles I was talking through. And then the second one, you're not going to have the answer to, but you're going to have a guess. And remember, you are not being marked on any of this. In fact, we don't even know who votes for what, do we, Max? So
that's right, it's all anonymous.
You can just plonk something in there and then, yeah, we'll have a bit of a chat about it. Now, I should say we usually have a break about halfway through the session. So, Max, you're going to have to tell me when a good time for that is, and I'm going to have to get a move on here because, as per usual, I'm getting excited by philosophical concepts around road safety, and there we go.
Yes, everyone seems to be filling it in. Okay, it's good to see your love of athletics is coming into these questions, Ken.
Yeah, I missed a bit there, Max, because when all, on a guitar, the wah-wah, electric guitar, the wah-wah stick, it's called a wah-wah stick, isn't it? That's what we're getting a little bit of out of your internet. It's like if you're using a wah-wah stick on your
whammy bar.
Whammy bar, is that what it's called?
I think so.
All right, let's get going because I got about 1,000 slides to get through today.
All right, I might stop the poll in 3, 2, 1. Looks like everyone just got in then, so well done. I'll share the results.
Good.
I'll let you run through it, Ken, in case I sound funny.
Thanks, Max. Which of the following is not a key principle of the safe system? Aim for no mistakes on the road is not a key principle. So most of you are onto that thinking. We acknowledge mistakes, right? What we want to do is minimize and manage. Is my little take on that. Minimize and manage. We're aiming for no mistakes when we've still got humans involved is just unrealistic. So what we need to do is manage those mistakes. So that's most of you are sort of thinking along those lines. And then we've got the Usain Bolt question, and we see, what do we got? 24, 34. Most of you are on 44 kilometers an hour, and you're onto it there. And I have asked some of you this in the past. And why on earth am I asking about Usain Bolt running speed in a safe system course? I'm going to stop that. Well, if we were to park a 2015 Toyota Camry at the end of Usain Bolt's lane, and he is traveling at 44 kilometers per hour as he crosses that finish line and bang, slams into that car, 44 kilometers per hour. Will he survive? Well, the answer is probably yes. I mean, we all predict yes, because, first of all, he's like the Hulk of a human, isn't he? He's going to withstand a fair bit of force. But there's a bit of a general correlation between people's maximum running speed and the ability to withstand force and recover to lead a normal, healthy life. Kind of how we evolved, I think, to run along and run into a tree or something and maybe knock ourselves out or break an arm or something, but recover, lead a normal, healthy life. And you can test that. You can run as fast as you can at a tree, and everything says that you will hit it and you will survive and lead a normal, healthy life. So that's assignment 1, and we'll be looking forward to you. Of course not. Let's keep ticking along, but let's get some more science around this. Okay, so this is where we see passenger vehicle striking pedestrian. Now, this is some European research, and there's lots more sort of contemporary research going on in this space to try to understand it from a whole lot of other perspectives. But for now, everybody seems comfortable to continue on using these curves. And what we see on the y-axis over here is fatality probability. The percentage of our community that is going to be killed when struck by a passenger vehicle at a certain speed. Now, this is impact speed, right? Collision speed. This is not speed limit. This is not a 5th percentile speed. Don't put all of that aside. This is collision speed. Okay, and this is passenger vehicle into pedestrian. But what you see here is that, around 10 or 20 kilometers per hour, highly likely that pedestrian, member of the community, will survive. Up around your 60, 70 kilometers per hour, highly likely that they're going to be killed. And what we see is this interesting shift around the 30 kilometers per hour, where it goes really bad, really fast after that mark. It goes exponentially bad after that mark. Right? There's a great man himself has come in high up the curve, but remember, that's all of society. And we're going to see these freak rare incidents where people survive really sort of high speed crashes. We're going to see low speed incidents where people get struck in car parks at very low speed, maybe old people fall and are killed. But that's a generic curve for society and really important in our safe system thinking. Let's have a look at typical human tolerance to things. This is what we can handle. So hopefully that streamed through for you. He went on and won the gold medal in the Olympics a year later, I'm told. So it shows you we can recover, we can survive that. That's what we're designed. We also have this information for other crash types. And this is passenger vehicle to passenger vehicle, right angle. And this is the bullet vehicle. Okay, we call it the bullet vehicle. Bullet vehicle does the striking and the damage, right? This is target vehicle. And what we see here is that bullet vehicle speed, right? Speed of that vehicle. And fatality probability is really fatality probability for the crash, but it's the occupant of the target vehicle, be it a driver side strike or a passenger side strike that is likely to be killed. And you can see there a similar curve, right? And that point where it goes really bad is about 50 kilometers an hour bullet vehicle speed. It's really bad, really quick after that. We also have this for head-on crashes. And this is where we're seeing that each vehicle traveling at the collision speed, and we see the point being about 70 kilometers per hour, where it goes really bad, really quickly after that. Now, this is 70 kilometers per hour for each vehicle. So we've got a sort of closing speed of 140 kilometers per hour. But what we're thinking about always in road safety is what are the forces on the individual occupants of the vehicle? Okay, so if you've got two vehicles, same weight, same speed, they hit each other head on, right? The occupant of the vehicle is going from 70 kilometers per hour to 0. And that's the force we're interested in, right? A lot of people will say, oh no, but you're copying 140 kilometers of force on that crash. Well, no, the only way that would happen is if you were in a tiny little smart car and you were struck a big big truck and you went back at 70 kilometers per hour, right? That would be the 140 kilometer per hour impact speed. And in fact, there's actually a really good Mythbusters episode that covers this really well with typical Mythbusters flare of crashing cars into each other and into brick walls, and measuring different deceleration. And so Max, can we chuck that into Moodle possibly, so people can watch Mythbusters on work time? That's always.
I'll be sure to upload that.
Thanks, Max. That's excellent. So this is interesting. We're gathering now this interesting sort of line there around that the point things go bad really quickly in different crash types. And you can see we're starting to analyze forces already in different crash types. And this is now we're talking safe system. You saw it integrated, so critical to your New Zealand safe system diagram, thinking about forces, designing for human vulnerability. And we're starting to even unpack some of this with some crashes. And what we've done is sort of created this colorful diagram, which we'll be pointing you at a number of occasions. And we've added some more crash types in here because, you know, we just gave you 3 there, but what about a car hitting a power pole or a tree? What about heavy vehicle involvement? Because they got more mass and they're going to have more energy. And then we've got all the speeds up here. And we're sort of creating this graded scale because it's not, you know, precise. There's so many variables in there that we need to give you the ability to use your own judgment with a bit of help here. And you'll see we're starting to even put numbers to this. And that's what a safe system assessment will do. And that's a few modules down the track. But we're starting to say, we predict this crash will happen. And based on the speed and the road users involved, we think the severity will be, and then you can sort of say a 3 or a 2 or a 4, you know, and you can start to get a quantification of the severity outcomes of predicted crashes. We'll come back to that. But there's a bit of shift in thinking, right, that's going on. And it's been going on for a few years. And I think it's important that we get our head around this because it is a different approach to road safety than what we've traditionally done. Now, this diagram is somewhat the bane of my existence. It really frustrates me when I see it popped up in a presentation. So what have I done? Popped it up in a presentation, but I'm going to sort of explain why I dislike it. And the reason I dislike it is not because it's not true and not accurate, and it is true, it's accurate, it's based on incredibly amazing research, far beyond what I'd ever be able to do. These people are brilliant. What it is a crash causation study. And in fact, they've been doing these for about 50 years, 60 years. And every sort of 10 years, the next world's biggest crash causation study comes out. In fact, I'm waiting for the next one to come out. A guy called Paul Salmon, I think, is going to be releasing one soon. But anyway, what it says is every time they do it, it comes out about the same, okay? And it comes out to show that somewhere around the 90 to 95% of crash causation is road user error. So you've got driver here, but we could call this road user. Road user error is the biggest cause of crashes. We've got the road interfacing in some of those. We've got the vehicle interfacing in some of those. So it could be, you know, tire blowout out here, or it could be, you know, the massive pothole or something out there. But really, the majority is human failure. Now, the reason I don't dispute that. The reason I hate this diagram is because of the way people then run with it. Because they go, that's the biggest problem. We've got to fix the humans. We've got to fix people. We've got to training, we've got to advanced skills. We've got to, you know, and it just says human, fix that damn human. But that is the hardest to fix. Don't get me wrong. As I say, we can still do more in this space to make people better, you know, better drivers, better pedestrians, better cyclists, and safer and the like. But my God, we need to really shift our thinking here. And we need to start thinking that is a system failure, okay? That is a system failure. And what we need to do is alter our system, because 94% of the crashes are root caused at human error. Does not mean that 94% of the solution is going to be to change the human, okay? And so that's what I'm really want to stress. So we need to change the system around the human, recognize humans make mistakes, And this is an Ostrode's diagram. We've got sort of the system failure as there, and then they've got driver excess and they've got driver inexperience. Now, to me, I would just pop them squarely inside there. That's a system failure as well. If a driver is driving 180 kilometers an hour down the wrong carriageway of the motorway and there's a crash, our system failed, right? How did the vehicle let them do this? How did our road system let them get onto that, right? You know, how's our licensing system let them do this? You know, you can question so many things with our system, but yet these may be treated slightly differently in the way we respond. The one thing before I get you to do a little exercise, and we'll have our little stretch break and fill up the water glass break in a second. There's a really good report from the Centre for Automotive Safety Research out of the University of Adelaide, and it's an Ostrode's report, which talks about catering for error in the transport system, or it's analysing error in the transport system. And what they do is they sort of break things up from a human factors perspective into lapses, mistakes, unintentional violations, and deliberate violations, right? And then they start to look and analyze crashes and human error, which is, as we talked about, this big, massive root cause of crashes. And they start to apportion these. And this is important to remember. Remember, we're still talking about changing the system. We're not talking about changing the human as much. We're going to try to do some stuff in that space. But when we're changing our system, this is important to remember. What they found is that, let's draw a line here. Above the line here with slips, lapses, mistakes, unintentional violations, resulting in death or serious injury, we're seeing that somewhere around 70% of death and serious injury on the New Zealand road network sits above the line. So we're seeing 30% here in some pretty deliberate stuff. Now, if the media was, the way the media portrays this is somehow that this is all of our road safety trauma under the line, because they're amazing stories and they get headlines and all of this. But there's a huge amount of trauma sitting above this line. In fact, the majority of it. So if we, sort of focus on this extreme driver behavior stuff as road safety problem, we're missing the bulk of our trauma. Now, I think we're going to see some different approaches to this going forward, because I'm not sure our traditional approaches to road safety are going to be as effective down here. I think a lot of the stuff we do, and it's emerging now, and we'll talk you through, it's going to do brilliantly in this part. It's going to not do so well in this part. We need to alter the way we do that. And in fact, some of the really exciting stuff we've been doing with Ostrodes, and it's more broadly talking about societal challenges, road safety. I mean, the idea that people drive the way they live is actually a really interesting connection. So it's a societal wider problem than just their behavior on the roads. But remember, we're talking maybe 30% of death and serious injury that probably need 7%. And we can do so much in this space, so much. We're not going to ignore this, by the way, but just be aware of that. All right, let's have a little, I'm going to explain this exercise, and then we're going to give you 3 or 4 minutes to do it. You may have done similar exercises in the past. They're just a nice way to consolidate thinking about the traditional approach to road safety and where we're trying to go to with the safe system. And basically what you're going to be doing is a little connect the two up. So we had a culture of victim blaming, where your responsibility for safety and you didn't control the vehicle and it's your fault. So where are we moving to in the safe system? Are we trying to effort to create a forgiving system, recognizing human error, minimizing its consequences? So a poll's going to come up and you're going to just connect them. If the poll doesn't come up for you for some reason, you can chuck it in the chat if you want, or just jot it down on a bit of paper. Remember, this is for you to consolidate your thinking around this. I'll tell you now, some of them could go to multiple spots. So don't get too stressed about it. about it, and you're not being marked on it. It's just a little exercise here. And we're going to give you what, Max? 3 or 4 minutes?
Yep, let's go for 3 minutes.
All right, so we'll go for 3 minutes from, I've got a little timer ticking away here, 3 minutes from now. We also want you to have a stretch, fill up your water, and I'll talk through some of the outcomes in 3 minutes time. I see you have a little bit of extra if you're running from downstairs, upstairs or something. Okay, back in 3 minutes. Couple more seconds for people to knock that down, have a stretch. Maybe we'll give another 30 seconds so people can have a stretch. All right.
Shall I end the poll now and I'll share the results, and Ken will run through this one by one, and as mentioned, don't be too biased if yours don't 100% line up. There's a bit of room for interpretation there.
Yeah, that's right. It's all about the way to think about it. I'm actually going to just talk about it on screen. I had a quick flick through there. I think most people are thinking, and a few that could go either way have gone either way. So let's have just a quick look there. I mean, so we are moving away from that victim blaming to that recognizing that humans make mistakes and trying to minimize the consequence of those mistakes with that, and still retaining that shared responsibility. Emphasis on road user education and compliance. Now really more focus on that forgiving system, not ignoring education and compliance, but certainly more effort in that forgiving system. The idea of crash reduction to now the focus on consequence, especially severe injury minimization. We will still try to reduce the number of crashes, absolutely, the likelihood of crashes, but we are now heavily focusing on the consequence of crashes. This idea of these 4 pillars operating in their own sort of silos, we're into that multifaceted system with interacting elements, optimized jointly as an interaction. A mouthful there, isn't it? Mobility safety balance, which is that sort of trade-off, balancing things out. No, we're moving to maximizing safe mobility. That's the idea of we're going to have this level of safety and we'll get mobility up as far as we can within that envelope. I like Ian Cameron's little statement here. We need a paradigm shift in road safety policy to stop the road death epidemic, and we need it now. It's unrealistic to expect that education and enforcement alone will bring the needed step change. Even road users who know and follow the rules make mistakes. A safe system creates an environment in which a simple mistake will no longer kill people or seriously injure people, I think should be added there. Yeah, good little statement. All right, let's jump to a road now, and could be any road in New Zealand, but I'm going to go with this one example. It's the Melbourne Highway. Doesn't really matter which road it is, but let me give you a little bit of background on this. Okay, this road is trying to put this road safety barrier in a narrow flushed median there. And that was the project. Okay, that was their aim. Create essentially a 2+1 style road. So 2 lanes in this direction, 1 lane in this direction, and then every couple of kilometres it sort of swaps over as to which side of the road gets that extra overtaking lane. The barrier sort of can snake along. Wire rope safety barrier system in the middle there. Here's a little bit other, so you can see some outside barrier as well going along there. Now, you don't know this road, right? And you don't know the project, and you don't know the history of the project, but I'll tell you, in this jurisdiction, it was the first barrier system in a flushed medium like narrow flushed medium like this as a project. But what I want you to do is into the chat, just write in a few of the hurdles, the challenges that the project development, planning and development design team faced here in this project. People were saying we can't possibly do this for these reasons. Okay, so pop in a few of those. Max, I'm going to give some prizes out. Haven't given enough prizes out. I'm going to pop a couple of them down, which blew my mind in this project. Not to say that they are necessarily the biggest, but I just found them very interesting. If somebody gets the same as any of these, they can have a prize.
Okay, we've got a few filtering through, so I'll just fill you in, Ken. We've got constrained corridor and land access, as well as maintenance access, access to properties, and no right turn into accesses. So access seems to be a hot one at the moment. Vegetation removal and koalas, of course, those beautiful cuddly creatures. Motorcyclists, restricted overtaking opportunities, community resistance to access way restriction, and unwillingness to drive a little further to save lives. Cost of the median barrier, as well as environmental factors. Geez, there's plenty of comments here. Potential for vehicles drifting off the road to the left, overcorrecting when they hit the rumble strips and colliding with the barrier. The barrier deflection space, not enough money. Close proximity of barrier to the traffic lane. There's no U-turns. Noise from the audio tactiles. Geez, plenty of different answers here. Embankment cuts and slopes, the high-speed environment, oversized vehicles as well within this space. It could have been used as another traffic lane, potentially. Maintenance concerns, cyclist concerns. I think we've had a lot of good answers there, Ken. Did any of those ring any bells on your list?
Well, to a degree, I think that everybody in this group may have actually tried to implement one of these in the past, because these are all, I think pretty much everything that came up there were major challenges in this project. And yeah, people, it's spot on. This sort of stuff can be very challenging from a whole lot of perspectives. The two that I particularly wanted, and I was going to give the prizes for, and I did see it come up a couple of times there. I think Graham and Andrew and somebody else had it in there. One is the deflection of the barrier system and the deflection space required and what is possibly achieved. So that was one. And the other was maintenance. And it was mentioned a couple of times, I'm not sure. It was the ability to maintain the barrier system, but also the pavement and how to manage traffic around the barrier system. Now, I just want to sort of briefly talk about both of those. I could talk about probably a whole lot of the other issues, but those ones to me particularly had some interest from a sort of operational perspective about the implementation of our safe system. So let's talk about the barrier deflection. And many of you will know a wire rope barrier system deflects when struck. The posts sort of flatten, break away, flatten, and the wires engage, and they sort of corral a vehicle back. Now they're going to deflect a certain amount, and they've been tested, and deflect, and we know the deflection, and it's going to go into the oncoming lane by a little bit in this case. This one sort of varied from about a 1.4 wide median to 2.2 different spots, but it's going in there. Now, there were other challenges with widths and cuttings and things like this, and constraints on size and balancing out these sorts of things. But essentially, there were some pockets of the industry saying, well, no, you can't put the barrier in. You're not meeting deflection requirements. And no, you can't do it. And there was other pockets saying, but hang on, the alternative is a white line. Surely this is going to be a better outcome to put some compromised, deflection widths. Because first of all, cars are not driving, always up near center line. The odds of it being exactly that point where it deflects out and their vehicle there are low. Often it'll be, deflection upstream or shallower and these sorts of things. Anyway, but that was amazing how long that took through design committees and the like and back and forth. The thing is, though, that I think a safe system assessment is a really valuable tool in these sorts of challenges and debates to get a sort of gauge on and a realistic, pull your head out of the detail look at a project like this to say, my God, it is so much safer like that than the existing conditions. And we need to do some design exception reports and those and balance and understand the risk and try to put in place other measures. But a safe system assessment, great tool for that. And the maintenance one's an interesting one, and where we absolutely need to ensure the safety of our workers maintaining the road and that they can do their jobs practically. But for some reason, we are absolutely committed to never compromising that safety, as we should be, but compromising the safety of the travelling public, yeah, sure. I mean, that's their fault, So it's again this sort of disparity in thinking around safety for people due to really control of the system. But that's a sort of aside. Anyway, so this barrier system got it in there eventually, as you can tell, and it got hit, of course, because that's why it's there to stop, stop vehicles getting across the lane. So it's going to get hit. Yes, there were certainly some maintenance people saying you can't put it in; it's going to get hit all the time, and can't. Anyway, got hit. The region got a phone call. I just want to talk to whoever put that barrier system in. Yeah, we'll put you over to the project engineer. Yeah, hey, and then I suppose you've probably been in the situation, public calling you, you're ready for your ear bashing. And they just wanted to say to the engineer, wasn't me, just want to thank you. I've been driving that road for 5 years, and you know, this is new, and I'm pretty sure it saved my life. Car sort of drifted off to the left and then shot across, and would have head-on struck us, but hit the barrier system, and I'm here because of your barrier. Thank you. And they were smart enough to then call the media team and say, hey, I got the details of this guy. You might want to talk to him. And they created a little video. It's a short 2-minute video. I think some of you might have seen it in different presentations. If you haven't, I certainly want you to have a look at it. It's on your memory stick. It's in Moodle in module 1. Just watch the video. It's safe system in action, in my opinion, because somebody's fallen asleep. They've made a mistake. But something in the system changed that from resulting in death or serious injury to resulting in property damage, us having to fix the barrier, them having to get some panel beating done on their car, and everybody lives a normal, healthy life. That's just beautiful stuff. Mistake, but it hasn't resulted in death or serious injury. Sure, we would love the guy to have had a good night's sleep before he drove, not fall asleep, or be woken up by someone else, but we've got. Anyway, I'm going to keep moving on. It's a wonderful little example. You can see lots of chat going on, lots of things going on, but I think, Max, you're going to jump in if you need me to comment on anything.
That's all good, Ken.
I want to just unpack a few elements of this system, a few of the levers we've got, understand sort of some of the benefits we can get, how we can address them. And I do this for multiple reasons. In a full safe system assessment, we try to think broadly across the elements of the system, not just the roads and roadsides or the vehicles or the work-related safety or these sort of things. We try and think holistically. Yes, it's a very infrastructure-focused assessment that we do, but there are these other questions that are asked about other elements of the system. And I want you to have some knowledge in these areas. I also want you to be an active sort of voice for best practice road safety initiatives. So when next time you're at a barbecue and maybe you're struggling for conversations with somebody, you can just say, I work in road safety. Have you got any thoughts on how we could maybe improve road safety? And there's your conversation for the afternoon for sure, because they will have all these ideas and talk to you about different things. And I'm going to give you a few little things to maybe squash some of the myths and ideas, or give them some information about this so we can generate that. So let's start with the road users themselves. And we're certainly not ignoring improving road users under the safe system. It's an important part of the system. And I want to talk to you about some of the things that work around the education, encouragement, enforcement, and the licensing system, or the entry into the system. Education, and this is not really just road safety, we know is best absorbed and we can get good changes in the little humans. They're very effective at taking on messages and altering behavior. And they're actually quite an effective little tool to get messages up to their parents as well. So you can convince them that putting a seatbelt on is a critical thing to do in a car, must be done. They will tell their parents that if they're not wearing their seatbelt. So we can get some wins there. And with young drivers, we know that the best thing is for them to get their hours on the public road system. We know that there's a lot of research and evidence out there to show that any sort of advanced driver training course where they learn high speed control of the vehicle, skid, how to get out of different skid situations, that increases their chance of being killed or seriously injured in road trauma. Increases. Now, there are defensive driving courses that appear to be a positive thing, but most of it is all done in the classroom or at normal sort of driving speed. Really well researched around the world to show that these high-speed skid style advanced driver training courses are responsible for a lot of death and serious injury. The reason, and it's kind of counterintuitive, isn't it? This is one where the public really believe if we could give everybody these advanced skills, our road trauma would, disappear. And it's completely wrong. The reason for it is that people go in, they come out more confident, they take more risks, and the tiny, tiny increase or decrease in risk due to their extra skills in these circumstances is just swamped by the increased risk taking. And this is an example of one where the public, and personal opinion on it, because often people will say, well, I did a advanced training course and it's the reason I'm still alive today in my driving. What a load of crap. You're not a representative sample of, you're a representative sample of yourself, but you can't make that connection, right? So we need to look at the data and the evidence, and I think that's it. Another little thing that I find really interesting about road safety is, and this is more the communication of road safety messaging, is that if you tell an individual that we're implementing a measure or that they shouldn't do something because of their safety, I don't believe us. So this one, for example, if we were to tell this gentleman, don't text and drive because you will be involved in a crash, he's just going to go, no, I'm not. I'm a safe driver. I only text when it's safe. I've been doing it, he's probably saying I've been doing it forever. I've never been involved in a crash. And the thing is that to a degree, he's not wrong. Okay? Because at an individual level, don't share this with the public, by the way. At an individual's level, texting and driving is not risky. At an individual level. Okay? Because the chance of being killed or seriously injured because of texting at an individual's level is minuscule. However, what we're doing is managing a whole transport system, and we add up all those minuscule risks. And what we have is a massive problem, a massive risk at a societal collective risk level. And so what we often see people in the communication of road safety messages do is try to talk to that individual as though they're a collective, and they don't believe this. And it's the same for speed limits. This is an absolute classic. Oh, we're putting an 80-kilometre speed limit on the road you've been driving for 40 years for your safety. And they go, no, you're not. You're doing it for revenue raising. And they go, no, it's for your safety. And it's just talking different languages, guaranteed to end in a fight. The thing is that as soon as you shift out of that, because the speed limit is the same, for that individual, their risk has not changed in any form of meaningful thing to them. And it's true from a risk perspective. But if you can talk to them about something else that is not their risk, right? And I love this little TAC ad where they say, if you text and drive, your kids are going to text and drive. Simple message, isn't it? But oh my gosh, so much more resonates to behavior change than trying to hit up that individual. And speed. I mean, there's good evidence to show in some different jurisdictions that communicating, we're putting a lower speed limit on this road for the protection of the wildlife. Yeah, all right, sure. Wildlife, yeah, okay, we've got to slow down a bit for them. They don't know what they're doing, jumping out all the... They will take that far more than we're protecting you or the community even, because there's too much human perception of humans doing inappropriate things on the road and individuals, and the media is beating up, crashes over the ice addicts and these sorts of things. I just think the way we communicate road safety is so important. So what works? What works when we're trying to communicate and educate and get those messages out? A whole of schools approach is really effective in road safety education. Combining it with other partner activities like police activities on speed and the like seems to work well as a package. Support for community education. We have very passionate people in the community to improve road safety, and what we have a responsibility to do is ensure that what they are investing their hard-earned money or their own time in are things that are evidence-based. And it really makes me sad to see, community, doing all of this work to get money together to send all of their young drivers in their town to advanced driver training, where we know that's actually going to increase their risk. Or, taking them through the trauma ward and saying, if you don't drive safely, this is what's going to happen to you. Another one where there's plenty of evidence to show that that is not effective. The only people it seems to be effective with are the ones who are the lowest risk taking members of the community, and the higher risk takers, the ones they're trying to target, are just not affected by that. And we have some other spin-off sort of challenges associated with it in terms of the effect on the psychological effect on young people. Graduated licensing system, so easing people into the driving task and restricting them in different ways as you ease them in, with different restrictions on passenger numbers or driving hours or speeds or these sorts of things are quite effective. And education, targeting especially motivated groups, so parents being one, or often new migrants are very motivated to learn and understand. An action program to change the way road users use the road. I'll come back to that. What doesn't work? I've covered off a few of these. Fear tactics don't appear to be very effective in altering behaviour. So the sort of ad that is put out there to absolutely scare the hell out of the public, graphic, ad. Often its purpose is not to change their driving behaviour, but it's often to set a platform for legislative change, and it does work a bit for that. But if you're trying to change people's driving behaviour by scaring them, it's really not going to be effective for the people you're targeting, the risk takers anyway. Skill-based driver training we covered. One-off events don't seem to have huge impact. Driver simulators, I know there's different studies going on at the moment to try to see if there's more benefit there. Nothing has emerged as significantly good in terms of road safety in that space. Car racing or go-karting clubs, they're very much based on that skill-based stuff, which doesn't show a lot of improvement. And information-only approaches, telling people how many people have been killed on the road they're about to drive, doesn't appear to have great effect for for that driver behaviour perspective. It can if you're going to alter the speed limit on that road or something. And here's a nice little graphic just to show some things in a graph form. Learner drivers, or those that have a supervising driver with them, there's very low crash numbers. As soon as they go into a probationary period or they're driving by themselves in one form or another, the risk and the number of deaths and serious injuries goes off the charts. And then it goes down over time. But it doesn't get to as safe as those learner drivers. And you can do this by, these are actual crash numbers on the side here, but you can do it by crashes per vehicle kilometres travelled as well. And it comes out, it's a little bit closer, but still our learner drivers are the safest. So anybody who tells you it's about skills and driving skills, they have no skills. They're safer. So I think that's a bit of an immediate sort of explanation there. So I've put some fact sheets into your memory stick and a Moodle because I don't want you to just go, oh yeah, Ken said that. That's I don't want you to have a look into the research yourself. So these fact sheets sort of point you at the different research that I'm basing some of these comments on. And yeah, if others are interested, quite a list of research there. Incentivizing campaigns and programs are good. So trying to pay people to drive safely, it's essentially what these are. They seem to have some effect. Mostly done around the world through schemes like, no demerit points on your probationary period and you get a free license, free full license, and those sorts of campaigns seem to have some effect. Advertising and marketing of specific behaviours rather than just drive safely. No, you say, or even don't drive fatigued is is not a great message, because what does that mean? But if you say take a break every 2 hours of driving, that's a very specific behavior that can be actioned. Comedy is effective for young males, and they're our biggest target audience, and they recall. Does it change their action? Hard to evaluate often, but it's got a lot more potential. Now, New Zealand does this, I reckon, better than anybody else with road safety ads, in terms of some of the comedy ads, or the element of comedy in a serious topic. And it's I'll put some different ads into your memory stick and on Moodle. You'll have seen some of them on your TV, no doubt, because some of them are yours. But we're trying to sort of change that culture, trying to get people to understand the safe system and the system in which they're part of operating. And so you see, like this New Zealand ad, for example, not a comedy ad, that's for sure, and then copied by the New South Wales government, the South Australian government, originated in New Zealand. But you see there, we're starting to shift the messaging around other people make mistakes. That's why you're slowing down. So not saying, hey, you'll be involved in a crash if you go fast, but not other people are doing crazy stuff out there, and that's why everybody has to slow down. Human tolerance to physical force. How are we going to sort of get that message across? I used Usain Bolt. TAC's using Graham at the moment. Graham is a life-size sculpture of a scarily human-looking thing, and is designed in a way that to survive the forces on the road that are out there. And Graham's a sort of installation that year 11s have to go to as part of their curriculum. It's now part of the physics course. And they get to understand Graham and the forces involved in different crash types. And we did some work there with the Road to Zero exhibition to create a little exercise for them where they changed the road environment, virtually, obviously, and Graham sort of turned back to a human. And so as they put barrier systems in, they can see Graham, the forces come down. As they lower speed limits, the forces come down. As they raise pedestrian crossings, the forces come down. Graham becomes human. And so, this is a long-term cultural change game for people to question speeds and energies on the road environment, and getting that in, sort of just instilling that in year 11s, and it's quite exciting. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Enforcement is really important in road safety, but it's not the be all and end all of road safety, as again the public may be led to believe. And the police are very good at saying we're just a supporting element of this system. But we know strategic enforcement efforts important, thinking about where the limited resources are going in a strategic sense, understanding that we have both specific and general deterrence in our toolkit. So specific deterrence meaning that you've been fined for something, or we find somebody for something, they won't do it again, hopefully. General deterrence is the general idea that you could be fined anywhere, anytime for different things, so you won't do them. And visual presence has that wonderful feedback loop in a general deterrence sense, and something that's very important in road safety. And of course, we're automating a lot of road safety enforcement, and that's going to pick up in the future, and it's going to be wonderful. And we certainly know things like speed cameras, point-to-point speed cameras, are a really good one. I think it's going to take off more and more in New Zealand. With point-to-point, basically take a photo of a number plate at one point, take another photo of a number plate down the road, get the average speed, and issue fines to those going over the speed limit, an average pace. Interestingly, a fun one that the Swedes did was Speed Lotto, where they had point-to-point speed cameras, so they gave that fine to everybody that went over the speed limit. But anybody that was going under the speed limit, they went into the draw to win all the money of the speeders, because they had their number plate and they had their information anyway, because they're taking that information off every vehicle. And I thought, what a wonderful little squash of any revenue raising, commentary. It's all going back to one person. Well, probably also one of the only good uses of society's addiction to gambling as well, probably anyway, but that's an aside. And the vehicle sort of in-vehicle enforcement interventions are pretty wonderful these days. I mean, things like alcohol interlocks where, you have to be 0-0 for the car to start flowing into that, and then it sort of beeps periodically in your journey, and you've got 5 minutes to, pull over safely and blow into it again for recidivist drink drivers, is, to me, just elegant, socially conscious enforcement, because we're targeting the specific behavioural issue. And what we unfortunately see is this sort of approach where if you've got somebody who's a drink driver, they've done it a couple of times, we know we put them in this recidivist drink driver category, and sometimes the response from a jurisdiction is to, let's increase the fines. Fines go up to $5,000 or something like that, and then impounding vehicles, taking their license off. Okay, what we're doing is spiraling their life further out of control. That a lot of these people have some challenges going on, and being able to get to their job, to pick up their kids, to these things is pretty important in continuing to sort of have their life in a reasonable sense. And so for government to intervene off one specific issue and just chop them off on these things, give them fines that they'll never be able to pay, take away their access to employment, to visit their kids, it's just ugly enforcement technique. You try and target that specific behavior, let them have elements of their life that are going to build them up. So I think the same with speed. I really do. I mean, speed is so important, right? So I'll show you shortly, but we have the technology, and we've had it for decades, to be able to do speed interlocks. Why don't we? Why, that person who is constantly caught speeding, why can we not put a speed interlock in their car that means that they, maybe can only go 5 kilometers and whatnot? They can only go to the speed limit in any speed zone. We have all the speed zones GPS mapped, and cars know where they're in there. The devices can go in there. Here's my Vic Roads vehicle 16 years ago, telling me exactly the speed zone I was in, beeping at me if I went over the speed limit. Could have connected it into the vehicle, so the vehicle, pushed back basically as you went. The issue is not technology. The issue is societal willingness for these to happen. There's another one around privacy and monitoring and those sorts of things, which people get a bit narky about, especially the privacy lawyers. But I think we need to start really addressing these things in those ways. But I'll keep moving on. Max, anything come up that I should comment on? I see a few good comments coming in there, and you're addressing things.
Yeah, no, there's been lots of good conversations, but nothing quite yet for you to handle, Ken. So you can keep on keeping on.
It's luxurious to have you behind the scenes, Max, answering and taking comments. And I certainly am reading a few as I go, and I'm going to read them all at the end, and any that I want to make further comment on, we'll do it in the next module. But let's have a little chat about the vehicles, because are the vehicles going to save us? Are we all going to be out of a job? Fingers crossed. I'm hoping I'm out of a job in my lifetime due to vehicles taking over. But how long away are the vehicles from completely taking over the whole road safety task? Most people who are very professional and educated around this and predicting what's going on say it's a long time away. Okay. So we have a huge amount of New Zealanders that are going to be killed and seriously injured between now and then. And what we have to do is try and work out how we can alter the system with what we've got at the moment. And there's a huge amount we can immediately do, so we don't need to just sit on our hands. But even, with the current sort of 5-star rated safety vehicles, we need to understand the limitations. There's a perception that 5 stars means, yeah, no worries, you can crash in all these situations and you'll survive. Here's the ANCAP 5-star frontal offset crash test. The speed that happens at is 64 kilometers an hour. So if your crash test dummy in there doesn't basically get level 3 serious injuries, basically acquired brain injuries, basically lifetime debilitation, if that doesn't get that at 64 kilometer per hour crash, 5 stars. What about the pole crash test? So it's a side impact into a pole. In fact, I'll give a prize out for this one. What speed do you think that crash happens at to get 5 stars if the dummy doesn't get that acquired brain injury?
We've got 30, 20, 40, 35, 45, 70, 50, 56.
We'll give it to the first person who put in 30. I saw it come up a couple of times there. It used to be 29 kilometers an hour, and big upping of the speed to 32 kilometers an hour. I thought it was going to go up, significantly, but it went up only to 32 kilometers an hour is the current side impact pole test. We drive around the road network with poles and trees at way faster than that, don't we? It is a direct side impact, and so you've got to have to think about how your vehicle's going to yaw, and a vehicle is going to yaw and get it. But my gosh, we are so far away from being able to manage the energy in a side impact pole crash using the vehicle safety features of side curtain airbags and the like. Vehicles are horribly designed in the side. Yeah, man. Now we're getting more and more advanced technologies that mean less and less side impact with things like electronic stability control and the like. We're still seeing a lot of it. So be aware of that limitation. It's pretty exciting now that we're seeing pedestrians included in the crash testing. So the vehicle, so it's the outside of the vehicles now starting to look at how can we manage the energy in these crashes? How can we stop these crashes happening? And how can we manage the energy? So most cars off the production line now will either have a pop-up bonnet. So as a vehicle hits a pedestrian, the bonnet will pop up and act like a bit of a trampoline for the pedestrian as the pedestrian hits it, or an airbag that comes out over the bonnet for the pedestrian or cyclist strike, which is good. So we're really starting to advance in these areas. But when are we getting to these sorts of vehicles where we don't have a steering wheel? I mean, these are what we'd call a level 4 or a level 5 autonomous vehicle, or there are these levels. It's not like it's all or nothing. No, most cars currently have a level of automation to them in terms of something. I mean, even cruise control is considered a early level of automation. But a level 4 or autonomous vehicle is like this, but it's geo-coordinated to only be able to go on certain areas or certain roads. So you see a few of these out. The little shuttle, that goes up on the waterfront or something with no driver. That's your level 4 vehicle. Early versions of level 4. Level 5, the ultimate, the utopia is where you don't have a steering wheel or any control, and it can go anywhere. And nobody's at that stage. And there's something like 1,500 bits of legislation at the moment that even if somebody was in the technology space to be able to do that don't let it happen. So you've got to work through all of that. And then there's this other one that we start to get involved in a safe system assessment perspective, and it's in its infancy, but it's called roads that cars can read assessments. And it's to understand, what is this vehicle doing? What is it looking for? What features of the road environment is it taking on to make decisions, to process things? And how do we design and manage roads to cater for these vehicles? Now, we don't know a lot, partly because the manufacturers are so closed with sharing information because it's very proprietary and all. But we're getting more and more information. The Europeans are publishing some pretty cool reports, cold roads the cars can read. And in the safe system assessment, you get these general questions that you've got to answer. What are the vehicles of the future going to think about this road? And often you go, oh, geez, I don't know. But there's some stuff that you can think about, are there signs that the vehicles are not going to be able to read? There's really interesting stuff coming out now showing that a lot of vehicles are reading signs more than they are relying on the GPS, which was what we originally thought. They're actually reading signs, but anyway. But we know in this sort of lead in, we're going to see lots of vehicles starting to increase automation. They're going to brake by themselves a bit. You're still going to be in control of the vehicle, but it'll brake, or it'll slow down before it crashes, like this one, which took the leg off the dummy there. But that's a great win in the fact that that vehicle started braking and hit it lightly, as opposed to hitting it at higher speed. So we'll see lots of wins come in. And speed is so important in road safety. It's just so critical to our safe system objectives. I'm going to give you a brief window into this, and we'll pick this up again later on. But a little reminder to a lot of you and to some others here, speed and crashes are not a linear relationship. It's not a linear relationship. Let me explain a little bit with an example. Here you go. You've got a person steps out at 45 meters away, traveling at 60 kilometers per hour. A driver sort of sees that person and then has to process what to do, lift their leg up, then they start braking, and then they touch. If we go up 10 kilometers per hour, all right, if it was linear, we'd be hitting them at 10 kilometers per hour. But it's hit at 46 kilometers per hour, okay? So that's one sort of insight there into the importance of speed and likelihood and speed of impact. In fact, what's been found is that there is a power relationship between fatalities, serious injuries, other injury crashes, and changes in speed. And it's a fourth power relationship for fatalities versus speed change, and a third power relationship for serious injuries. Actually a second power relationship for all other crashes. But if you're not a person who plays with power relationships, not a maths fan, basically what it means is that small changes in speed have the biggest influence in fatal crashes and then serious injury crashes. And it's not like a small change in speed has a small impact on safety. A small change in speed can have a massive impact on safety, especially at the severe end of things. So, speed is absolutely critical. And the community just gets up in arms about speed, especially when we put speed limits in. And I know that you all know some of this. But here you go. Question 2. I think this was the Tasmanians. A lot of Tasmanians were asked, lowering the current speed limit would reduce the crashes on roads. About half of them go, yeah, not true. Females, much more inclined to say, yeah, there's truth to that. Now, there is so much evidence around the world to show that absolutely this is true. I mean, this is very, very true, but we need to understand how the community reacts to it. Interesting other question that was lowering the current speed limits would reduce the severity of injury or crashes if they occur. Now people are onto that. So maybe basic physics and biomechanics of injury understanding. But maybe we could give some, maybe we can say that these people are maybe thinking that the speed limit change maybe won't result in the actual speed change, or they just don't see that connection between speed and energy, maybe. But speed's critical. So I was just recently updating the Austroads Guide to Road Safety Part 3, Speed and Speed Management. And it's been released now, but I popped this diagram in from the Swedes, actually, just to sort of show that speed is so important. I mean, you can basically have any road environment with any vehicles on it, any roads and roadsides, any road users. As long as you filter it through the right speed, you can have a safe transport system. But one thing I really stress is that we have a transport system to move people and goods. And our objective is not to stop that, right? We want movement of people and goods under the safe system. We have to have it. It's what our transport system is there for, right? What we need to do is manage and ensure that that happens safely. And speed is going to be one important role to that. And it's quite complex how that plays out. Interestingly, though, people will often sort of get angry at me or at the safe system. It's all about lowering speeds. It's ridiculous, blah, blah, blah. What do you want us all driving 10 kilometers an hour, somebody waving a red flag out the front of the vehicle, whatever their points are. The thing is that I think that a really nice analogy of one of the most safe system areas we have out there is a racetrack. We have alert and compliant road users. We have a road system that is designed to manage the energy of the speeds of the vehicles. We have vehicles with wonderful safety features. We have speeds that are managed in the areas where conflict could happen, like the pits and those areas, and people stick to it and it's very well managed. But in areas that are designed for higher speeds are very high. And we see very little death and serious injury on race tracks. It's very well aligned with safe system principles. There is an occasional one, but in general. So that kind of squashes any ideas that it's all about lower speeds. It's about appropriate speeds for the infrastructure and the vehicles that we have. And we know we can achieve safe speeds through that infrastructure or speed limits. So it's not like it's all about the red circle around a black number. Infrastructure can be very effective in altering the operating speed, and that's all we care about. All we care about is the operating speed. Explaining why a speed limit is placed can assist, and the protection of vulnerable road users is a real hook. And I told you a bit about that with the schools. I mean, kids are a wonderfully effective way to reduce the speed limit, and people find it very hard to argue against that. I think variable speed limits are going to be a great sort of entry in, and something you can be thinking about suggesting in your safe system assessments. So altering speeds at different times of risk. We'll come back to that. Okay, pop in there. What's the sort of definition of risk? International definition of risk. Give a prize for the first person. A formula for risk. Who's got something there? Give it to Peter there. Severity times probability. I like it. And there's a few others getting in there after. Peter can have that
Peter snuck in first. Well done, Peter.
Likelihood times consequence, or probability times severity, same thing, different words for it. It is, what is the chance bad things going to happen and how bad is it going to be? International sort of definitions: health risk, economic risk, environmental risk. It's all the same. What's the chance of acid rain? How bad is it going to be? Here's the risk of acid rain. It's the same in road safety. What's the chance of a crash? How bad is it going to be? But in a safe system assessment, there's been this little splitting out there of exposure from likelihood. So it's saying how many people are exposed to a certain crash risk. And then what is the chance that that risk will happen, and how bad is it going to be when it does? And a safe system assessment, the meat of a safe system assessment, is examining each of these elements. How many road users are exposed? What's the chance of crash? How bad is it going to be when it does happen? And we quantify each of those. So exposure is about the numbers of road users. So it could be the number of vehicles, it could be the number of pedestrians, the number of cyclists going through an area where a crash could happen. Okay, and so things that you could do to address that are to block off a road, right? So here's a example: level crossing, mound of dirt, road closed sign. There is no exposure to crashes, passenger vehicles to trains there now, because nobody's going through that conflict point. Likewise, if you're able to separate vulnerable road users onto their own facility away from the passenger vehicles, there is no exposure to that crash, for the crash being the vehicle to cyclists, for example. The likelihood has all those things in it that reduce the chance of the crash happening. And this is where we've traditionally done really well. Lighting, sealed shoulders, line marking, guideposts, some newer things like wide center lines. These are all likelihood factors, reducing the chance that the crash is going to happen. Traffic signals, another likelihood one, telling people, won't you stop now and you can go now, reducing the chance that the crash is going to happen. But they do nothing for the severity of the crash. The severity is simply influenced by the speed, the angle, the vulnerability of those involved in the crash. How bad is it going to be? And so you can manage speeds at conflict points. That's going to influence the severity of the crash. Or you can put a system to sort of redirect and manage energy, like a barrier system. Okay? Still have a crash happening, don't you? Leave the road, hit the barrier system. Crash is happening. But the severity of it is so much less because energy is dissipated along the system over time. Won't do the quiz, Max, because I want you to be telling people what they're going to have to do in Moodle.
Yes, thank you, Chance.
1 minute I've left you.
It's all good. I won't share my screen. I'll run through it quickly. Hopefully everyone's got their Moodle login details. If you don't, send me an email and we'll get you sorted. Quiz number 1 is up there. So it's just a matter of clicking on the link and submitting that. And as Ken mentioned at the start, you've got 3 opportunities to do that. And hopefully everyone finds that fairly straightforward. If you have any issues with the questions, you can also flag them, and that will give us opportunity to get in touch with you specifically. But yes, module 1 quiz is up and ready to go. Ken?
Yeah, great. And log in a little bit early before the next session on Friday. Chance to win a prize. Have a good evening. And yeah, thanks for all your wonderful chat in there. I'll have a read of everything now.
Wonderful. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. See ya.